Winkworth in Barnet, we've been here since 2004. I acquired the franchise in 2010. Winkworth is a company with a lot of offices based inside the M25, or over 95 branches throughout mostly the UK. We specialise in residential sales, property management and property lettings from this office. Challenging, I would say, but very good for us on the back of 3 very difficult Brexit years. For the beginning of last year, 2020, January and February, we were incredibly busy. And then obviously to be locked down fairly shortly after that. And like everybody else, unsure about what the future held. But luckily for us, as an industry, we were released back and allowed to sort of function with obviously COVID guidelines in mind very early. And coupled with the stamp duty holiday changes, we were incredibly busy for the past 12 months. Initially, we didn't need it. We were already very busy. And I think the government's idea with stamp duty was primarily aimed at the first-time buyers, to give them an opportunity to get onto the housing ladder. That seemed to go quite well initially, but then we had the lenders who changed their lending policy, and they were reducing their loan to value from 95% to 85%. So, although there was a stamp duty sweeter for the first-time buyer, on one hand, it was taken away on the other hand. And COVID really served to make a lot of people that have been living in flats want to move to get gardens or more space because they were, expecting to be working from home for a prolonged period. So we had an oversupply of flats. But the residential sales market in terms of family and the houses really could price from 450 up to $1 million, or sometimes even a bit higher than that, has been very, very busy. I think I'm cautiously optimistic. Now stamp duty holidays behind us, we're back to what is a normal market, if there is such a thing in London, where we have an underlying supply problem in the market, and because that's re-established itself, you've got people really fighting over very few properties that are being sold at the moment. So it's very challenging if you're a buyer at the moment, and I think that's set to get worse. On the back of what we've just experienced, yes would be the answer to that. Prior I would say no. Moving forward, where I used to be able to predict seasonal fluctuations, this area is driven by family. It works with the school calendar in a normal year, there is such a thing. But that's all changed with COVID and prior to that, Brexit. I just want some sort of normality. The government, I think planning changes are essential. We need planning changes to incentivise the developers to build more property, to satisfy the lack of supply that we have, and perhaps contentious subjects like greenbelt land, which I think the first place the government should look to is brownfield, and there is plenty of that in the London Borough of Barnet. Incentivise the developers to concentrate their efforts on that, rather than trying to win over, and fight local support of greenbelt land.
There's been quite a lack of supply in the rental market in Barnet. Yes, the rental market is always quite steady in Barnet because of the location. People move here from schools and the transport links. The rental market is always quite consistent. There's just been a lack of property around, and that's mainly, I think, to do with the uncertainty with tenants' jobs because of the pandemic, and tenants have decided to probably stay put and not move for a period of time. And obviously their job security as well has probably been a bit of an issue. So it's been a bit of an issue, but still quite steady because of where we're kind of located here. In a normal market, the demand is always there, but we noticed that throughout obviously lockdown, I guess that when we were first in lockdown, it completely kind of died a death. The rental market completely stopped. But obviously then as restrictions started to ease, we started getting busier again, with people wanting to move, but I guess that the lack of supply hit that end of the market. Come the summer, I guess when restrictions started to ease further, we noticed we had some properties, quite an oversupply of properties then started to come on, because people could then start their move again. But we then still noticed the demand was quite low. So even the properties that we've had on our management side of things for the last 5 to 6 years would usually rent very, very quickly. We noticed that they weren't renting as quickly, so we had to give ourselves a bit more time. And we even noticed we weren't getting the top rent for those properties. So landlords had to be a little bit more flexible on the rent. And for the landlords, it's about getting the right sort of tenant that's going to consistently kind of pay the rent throughout their term. But now we're starting to see a few more properties coming on, and when they do come on, they tend to rent quite quickly because of where we're located here. Barnet's always very steady because you've got the transport links to schools, the hospital here. It's a nice place to live.
On the management front, it's been challenging during the first part of lockdown. Getting engineers, getting materials, getting anything to come out where shops were closed was quite difficult. And obviously things go wrong. And the more people are at home, the more things go wrong because systems are just not used to operating like they have to be. It's like with Wi-Fi. Everyone's complaining about Wi-Fi because it's never had to deal with it as much as it has recently. So yeah, it's been challenging, and some people are more understanding than others when it comes to that. There's only so much we can do, that's the problem. When it comes to materials, we can try and source different materials, but I think generally the delay is overall. So it's not just one contractor, we'll try different contractors. That's normally we would have a sort of 2 or 3 trusted contractors that we would use, but we've had to source different contractors just to see if they've got different materials or they've got different suppliers. So that part of it is just been general throughout the whole industry with getting any materials in. Obviously some people have actually opted to change a boiler, for example, if they know they can get the parts here as opposed to importing them. So people have had to make quite radical changes with that, what they wouldn't normally be doing.